So I also want to talk to you about the co-op programs.
Right.
First, I want you to tell our audience what is co-op programs and how does it benefit the students.
So a co-op is basically a sort of experiential program that is embedded into the academic program itself. Students are basically placed with an employer during their co-op term, and they work in different fields that they're interested in. So the co-op could be, let's say, with an accounting firm, where if students want to learn, become a professional accountant. The co-op could be with a bank if students are interested in the financial sector. The co-op could be with a marketing firm if, for example, social media marketing is of interest to them, and so forth. There are a lot of co-op opportunities, not only within New Brunswick, but if students are willing to venture out of New Brunswick, we have, in fact, more opportunities than there's interest among students.
Hi everyone, welcome to our today's Thoughtcast. I'm Shweta and today we'll be talking about why Canada has always been a top-notch education for international students, with its top-notch education, inclusive and diverse culture, as well as a lot of career prospects. But beyond these popular metropolitan cities, new regions like New Brunswick are also gaining recognition because of their high-quality academic institutions, affordable living, as well as career pathways. And to explore these opportunities, we have Dr. Devashis Mitra, the Dean of Business School at the University of New Brunswick, Fredericton campus. Welcome to the show, Dr. Devashis.
Thank you, Sweta.
So, for our audience, could you introduce yourself briefly a little about your experience and about your years in the education sector?
Sure. So first, Sweta, it's very nice to meet with you, and also thank you for doing this podcast with me.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you.
So I guess my journey through my careers has been, I did my schooling in Calcutta in India, and I did my college at St. Stephen's College in Delhi. I studied with economics honors, and then I went on to do a chartered accounting designation. And I sort of worked for a couple of years in the private sector. But the urge to be in the academic field it sort of beset me. And so I went on to do doctoral studies at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst in the US. And after that, I've been in academia for, I would say, at least 32 years. I've been at the University of New Brunswick for that length of time. I joined the faculty as an assistant professor. And then, of course, I became dean of this faculty in 2013. And I've been dean since then. And I'm also a professor of finance and entrepreneurship. So my journey in academia has sort of.
So that's actually very great, and you have studied in some of the most prestigious universities and institutions. So I think you will be, the best person to answer my next question. Since many students are choosing diploma, then so why is degree a better investment?
So I can talk from the point of view of business and accounting or various other fields in business management that I'm familiar with. So first, of course, our degree programs are designed to provide depth and rigor in knowledge. So just to give you an idea, although we have a 4-year program, we offer at least 7 or 8 different concentrations and honors in different fields such as accounting, finance, marketing, quantitative methods,
right.
etc. So basically, students are able to choose from this array of specializations and in order to determine what career opportunities they would like to take. So their learning experience is very rich in that sense. Secondly, we have tie-ups with professional bodies. So, for example, our accounting program is very strongly tied to the certified public accounting profession in Canada, which is kind of the professional designation for accountants there, right? Similarly, some of our finance courses are tied to this certified, chartered financial analyst program, the CFA program. And our HR courses are tied to the HR designations there.
Right.
So this again plays a very important role, especially if a student is trying to get into a profession, right? And then, of course, I should mention that in our faculty, one of the things that we have really tried to do is to not only provide academic rigor, but we also provide a lot of emphasis on experiential learning. And what that means is from early on, students are able to interact with businesses, with community leaders. Many of the courses have experiential learning embedded in them. And that gives them sort of this kind of skills that from an early age
Right.
that a diploma may not be able to provide. So overall, at the end of the day, students come away with a much deeper learning, and this in turn, I think, helps propel their careers much better than through a diploma.
Right. So while we're on the topic of courses and programs,
Right.
let's talk about the career opportunities, because that's what the students worry most. So what are the post-study work opportunities or the career on how how is the job market there after graduating from business?
So the job market, of course, it sort of varies. Dependent on the economic situation of the
Right.
country, right?
Right.
There are times when the market is very strong, when the country is prospering generally. And other times, the country may be in a bit of a recession and therefore the market
True.
dries up.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are always sort of opportunities for jobs in the business management field, simply because this is kind of almost like the required degree for entry-level positions in various fields, such as accounting, finance, marketing, human resource management, etc.
Right. Right.
Companies or even the government sector need these skills, regardless of whether the economy is in a recession or is in a
True,
is doing
true.
well. So I would say that within New Brunswick, the same thing holds. For example, just to give you an idea, accountants in New Brunswick, they almost have full employment. The accounting field is just as strong there as it used to be, at least when I was a CA in India. I'm assuming it's still the case here as well.
That's great. Yeah.
Right. So a student who sort of graduates with an accounting designation and also then ends up pursuing a professional designation, I mean, there's a ready job for them. Similarly, we have found a lot of students getting placed in the finance sector, in the marketing sector as well. I should mention that New Brunswick is a small province at the end of the day. And so many of our students also venture out to the other bigger provinces like Ontario, British Columbia, etc. So eventually they all end up getting placed in the various fields that they're in. Some of our newer sort of areas like entrepreneurship, etc., have also gained traction in the sense that we have some courses that are designed, experiential courses, that are designed to, for example, have students take on the profession of investment banking. We have an entrepreneurship course called Venture Assessment, where students learn to do due diligence working as venture capitalists. So that's another field that students are getting placed in.
That's actually very great. Yeah. So I also want to talk to you about the co-op programs.
Right.
First, I want you to tell our audience what is co-op programs and how does it benefit the students?
So a co-op is basically a sort of experiential program that is embedded into the academic program itself.
Right.
In our faculty, we have different levels of co-op. Students can do co-op for a year, or maybe they can do it for 2 years. So there is scope to do less or more of co-op. But the important thing is that students are basically placed with an employer during their co-op term, and they work in different fields that they're interested in.
Right.
So the co-op could be, let's say, with an accounting firm, where if students want to learn, become a professional accountant. The co-op could be with a bank if students are interested in the financial sector. The co-op could be with a marketing firm if, for example, social media marketing is of interest to them, and so forth. So there are a lot of co-op opportunities, not only within New Brunswick, but if students are willing to venture out of New Brunswick, we have, in fact, more opportunities than there's interest among students. So students get that very valuable sort of work experience, and they also get credits in our program to gain that work experience. And of course, they're also being paid for the co-op, right? So overall, that's also a win-win situation. Yeah. Ultimately, I would say that the relationships that the students build while doing the co-op leads them to permanent jobs, which again is
that's absolutely true.
So a lot of our students, after doing their co-op, they graduate and then they are absorbed by the same company.
Right. So basically they can work while studying,
Right.
gain experience, which will help them in finding the jobs afterwards.
That's right.
That is absolutely like a very, very good thing. So when students, when a student decide to study abroad, they usually look for a lot of other aspects other than choosing just the university. They look for the area they are going to, the city they are going to, and most of the students choose the big cities like Toronto and Vancouver. So what makes the New Brunswick or the Atlantic region more attractive?
So maybe I'll speak from my own experience. When I was living in the US as
Yeah.
a doctoral student, and I got this, I guess, call from UNB
Mm-hmm.
to come and interview with them as an assistant professor. I had no idea about New Brunswick at that time. So my wife and I, we drove from Massachusetts to New Brunswick. And I still remember that as soon as we crossed the border, the view became so scenic, like it was almost like we were driving through a very scenic sort of landscape
Right.
with the St. John River on one side and greenery, lush greenery on the other side. And then we came to New Brunswick and we really it was quite easy to fall in love with the place. Firstly, because the whole region is so scenic, the people are so friendly, and there's a real sort of strong quality of life aspect to it. I'm seeing that the same thing is happening with many of the students who come to New Brunswick.
Right.
Because, they come to New Brunswick not knowing much about it. Because after all, in India, Canada is known, as you said, by Toronto, Vancouver, some of the bigger cities.
Yes, yes.
But then the lifestyle in these provinces is very different. If you want to live in a place which is very friendly, and yet you get all the opportunities that you get in a big city. So, for example, if you have children, those children are able to get all the extracurricular activities or schooling in New Brunswick that they would get in Toronto. But the parents would have to drive them much shorter distances, right?
Right.
And then again, if, for example, you have preferences for food, I mean, New Brunswick is now sufficiently international that pretty much all types of groceries are available. And also, I would mention that New Brunswick is an extremely safe place.
That's important. Very important.
That's important. And also, what happens is that, if you are in a big city, there is more stress in the city. Just by living there, there's a stress because
Absolutely, yes.
you're traveling distances. That is not there in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
So people are able to live, have a good work-life balance, and that certainly adds to the sort of quality of life there.
So you can get a top-notch education while living in a beautiful country.
That's right. And in fact, what I find that our students, after getting the education, they may have thought that perhaps after getting the education, they would live in Toronto, Vancouver, etc. Many of our students that we have surveyed say, no, our first choice is to now work in New Brunswick, because they've become accustomed to it.
Obviously,
So-
with all the benefits and all the good things that you mentioned, anyone will choose the Brunswick to for living. Like it's safe, it's beautiful, you can get top-notch education and whatnot. So why not?
That's right.
So since you're a dean and you have been in the classroom, so I want to know what is I'm sure our viewers will also want to know how is the classroom culture there, like the professor the professor and student relationship. If you can just talk about
Sure.
that.
So first, I should mention that we are an ACSP accredited school, and therefore, I mean, we really try to hire top-notch professors, and we are very proud of our professors. I mean, they are passionate about their teaching. They do very high-quality research, and all of them, I think, adds to the rigor of the learning that the students get. Now, we are also proud of the fact that our student-to-faculty ratios are generally smaller than in other places. UNB overall, I believe, has a student-to-faculty ratio of about 15. But the management field, of course, because we have so many students, the ratios are higher. But despite that, our faculty members have a strong personal connection with the students. But, in addition to the faculty, I should mention that there are a variety of support services that we offer that are very strong. So, for example, as soon as the student comes into the first year, we provide a lot of first year experience programs that students can sort of participate in. It helps them become more absorbed in university life much more easily. They build friendships and relationships that often last lifetimes, right? And they participate in a variety of activities, in social activities, academic activities, which kind of, and these activities are also, their seniors are often involved. They are called peer mentors. They're often involved in basically kind of helping the juniors sort of get a more stable footing in the university.
That's
Right?
actually very great and important for students, because they are shifting to a whole new country. So it's obviously a very daunting thing. So getting support and help from the seniors and the mentors really helps. So
That's right.
yeah.
So the other thing I would mention is that we have a very, very active student society.
Mhm.
So our student society is called BAUS,
Okay.
Business Administration Undergraduate Society. That's the full title. They are so active. They host award various galas. They participate in competitions, and they really make life of the students very, very rich. I'll just give you one example. So.
Sure.
The students, for example, just before the final exams, they're studying, right? So our boss, basically, they organize sort of study events together. So students would come, sort of, they rent these big hall rooms,
Mhm.
and students basically study there. But they also create opportunities for recreation. So you study for an hour, and then they would do something. For example, they might bring a dog into the room, and there would be some fun events there,
That's
or
cool.
they would do some other activities. So the business society itself, comprising of senior students,
Mhm.
are helping all the students to be much more engaged, right? We also provide students a lot of opportunities to participate in competitions. Our alumni play a very strong role, where they come in as executives in residence,
Right.
or even to the classrooms. And then finally, I would mention that the business community, the local community in the province is very supportive of the university.
Mhm.
So just to give you an example, our Chamber of Commerce, our students are welcome to any of the Chamber of Commerce events free of charge, because we have a partnership with them. Right?
That is actually
So
very
if you think
interesting.
about the totality of all
Mhm.
of these resources available, it makes the life of the students so much more enjoyable.
Right. So the student life seems very vibrant there.
Very vibrant, I would say. Yes.
All right. So, since you are the dean of the business school, what are some of the trends that you have noticed in the area, in the sector, like in the business sector, growing?
So, of course, if I think about the most recent trends, AI comes to mind right away.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's something that I'm sure will continue to grow in ways that we still don't
For
know.
sure, yeah.
Right. And so we are embedding AI in many of our programming, and our students are, of course, becoming much more proficient
Mhm.
in this. Few years ago, analytics was a very, very hot area. And so
Right.
we have analytics programs and courses, and those are still doing well. But, at the end of the day, the core areas of, as I said, accounting, finance,
Mhm.
marketing, HR, etc., they have remained stable for a very, very long time, for decades, I would say.
Right.
And I think that they would continue to be stable,
Mhm.
because those are some of the core functions that are so essential for corporations or even non-for-profit entities
Mhm.
to function,
Mhm.
right? So I guess I would say that there is an overall core, and there would, of course, be trends after that. Some of those trends will stay. So, for example, AI, I'm sure, will stay for many, many years.
Right.
So,
So you mentioned HR, finance, and marketing. So these are very traditional,
correct.
programs. You can choose the what do you call it in the marketing, the segments. These are very traditional segments. So what is the most favorite among the students? Like students usually go for, which is the
So there is no consistent most favorite.
Mhm.
What I've found is accounting has always been very popular
Mhm.
because of the professional designation,
Right.
and because, as I mentioned before, if students do pursue accounting and then do get the professional designation,
Mhm.
they have a lot of job opportunities and
Right.
real opportunities for career progression.
Mhm.
Finance again is a very strong, because and also within finance we have some strong experiential programs in the investment side.
Mhm.
So a lot of students are driven to that, because they have ended up getting jobs on Bay Street, which is like Dalal Street in
Right.
Mumbai. Bay Street is in Toronto, or Wall Street in
Mhm.
New York. So students get a lot of high level jobs doing finance. HR again has been a very strong area. Marketing has been strong as well, but
Right.
that's because these are core functions that a lot of organizations need.
Right.
Right. Um,
Also, USA and Canada, like they are very popular for the the startup culture.
right.
So, how does the University of New Brunswick, like, do the university assist in that also?
Very much so. In fact, our university likes to say that although they are one of the oldest universities in North America, UNB was established in 1785, and it is, I believe, almost as old or as old as the University of Georgia in the US. So they are very old universities.
Right.
But despite that, our university feels that they are agile and they really cater to the startup environment. So in our faculty, we have very strong entrepreneurship programs. And these programs are also facilitated by a center that we have in our faculty. It's called the International Business and Entrepreneurship Center.
Right.
So the center, for example, in January, it hosts a business plan competition. It's the business plan competition is sponsored by one of Canada's big banks, BMO, the Bank of Montreal. That's just one example where students participate in a big way. They win prizes,
Right.
and many of the startups that are competing in those competitions actually end up being doing quite well later on.
That's
Some have
amazing.
become really quite popular and good. Also, like many of our students, especially the more meritorious students, have found is that they prefer to kind of engage in being an entrepreneur
Right.
as opposed to looking for stable employment. So just to give you an example, we have a student from India who recently won one of the most prestigious fellowships in Canada called the Sobeys Fellowship.
Amazing. Yeah.
Right. And he is also now, while he's still studying, developing an AI-based app, in partnership with another computer science student.
Right.
So, and we really try to facilitate that because we have a very strong entrepreneurship program of courses. We have some very strong experiential courses in entrepreneurship. I told you about venture assessment,
Right.
which basically we have a tie-up with the leading New Brunswick-based venture capital firm. And students really work as a venture capitalists in a 6 credit hour format, right?
Right.
So a lot of students are drawn to these courses, and then it sort of helps instill that entrepreneurship spirit in them, which stays on even after graduation.
Right. As we all know that India has a lot of young, brilliant minds, and startup is a very popular culture here.
Right.
So students look for that abroad also
Yes.
when they go there. Since you have also been an international student earlier, so what changes do you see in the facilities for the international students earlier as well as now?
So, I was an international student doing a doctoral studies program in the US. And the environment there was very strong because a lot of Indians were students in the US when I was
Right.
there. But I should mention that when I came to New Brunswick as a professor, I found that there were not too many international students at UNB, for example. UNB for a long time, it had one number that used to stay constant almost.
Oh.
13% of its students were international, right? But 13 is not a very big number.
Yeah.
And so the infrastructure was there, but the infrastructure was more relationship building infrastructure. So I'll give you one example. And this is from one of our executives in residence who was Singapore based, and he's going to come and visit us again later this month. He actually was, after graduating from UNB, he was one of the builders of Singapore, I would say. He worked in the cabinet of Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, and he himself became a sort of a cabinet secretary, etc.
Right.
Became a CEO of a major company, etc. So he always tells this story. When he came to UNB, this was much before me, in the 1960, 68. He came to a very small town, but what impressed him was that the dean of the school had come to meet him. Right.
Right.
So
That's a big thing.
there was not an infrastructure, but that personal touch
Yeah.
he cannot forget, right? Since then, of course, you have so many students coming, and therefore much more formal infrastructure has grown. When I came in the 1990s to UNB, there was an international student advisor office that's still in place. There were sort of support networks, but now the support networks are much more formalized. We now have a global learning and engagement office,
Right.
which sort of seeks to establish partnerships with universities, but also helps any students who come study at the university. We have the international sort of programs, the office that sort of basically deals with work permit issues, etc., etc., and they play a very important role.
Right.
So I would say the infrastructure has been much more formalized, has grown much more, but some of the basic things remain. So, for example, our international students, when they first arrive, there's always someone there to meet with them, right? And that is done by our international programs offices coordinating with the various student union people, right?
Right.
So students sometimes go to sort of meet up with newer students, etc.
That's good. That's good.
Right.
So, since you interact with a lot of students, so what are some basic mistakes they make, while networking, or if you could just give some of the tips that could help them in networking better?
So in our faculty, we provide a lot of opportunities for networking. So I'll give you an example, and this is more not for the BBA but the MBA. This year, our Chamber of Commerce, they host these breakfast events, right? And the breakfast events are basically, in 1 month, one company would sponsor a breakfast event. In another month, another company would do it. So this January, the breakfast event was sponsored by our MBA society. Right.
That's good. That's good.
And so about 70 business people came and they interacted with our MBA students. And that was a very, very rich experience. So, like, our chamber plays a very big role in providing networking opportunities to all the students. Our faculty is providing networking opportunities all the time. I mean, through the business society that I talked to you about. So, for example, our business society, they have a formalized system where they would bring in, say, a manager of an accounting company to do just a lunch and learn session with the students, right? So manager comes, they order pizza, and the students get to ask them questions, etc. They create a relationship.
That sounds
and this is being
interesting.
organized by our student business societies, right?
Very interesting. Yeah.
So, and then the faculty as such, we encourage students to participate in good competitions, which would also draw attention from employers. So that again provides a greater networking opportunity. Just to give you an example, I told you about our International Business and Entrepreneurship Center.
Right.
Hosting the business plan competition. They also host a data challenge, a data analytics competition. And many of our students get actually employment opportunities when they participate in that competition. So that provides a real strong networking opportunity as well. I'll give you another example. So we have this very strong student investment fund program. It's basically an experiential program where I told you the students learn to work as investment bankers, right?
Right.
So a required component of that program is that for 1 week, they go to Bay Street in Toronto, where all the big banks give presentations to them. The investment houses give presentations, and they are networking with these banks and investment houses. Very often they end up getting hired by them also. And then, of course, like in our faculty, we really strongly believe that it should not be just academicians teaching them,
Right.
but we also believe that practitioners should teach them. So many top people in companies come and teach our students. And the fact that those are teachers of these students builds automatic networking opportunities.
That sounds amazing. Everything sounds so interesting, and I think the student and teacher relationship is quite casual. They are not so very strict, which is very good and important.
It's very casual.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it's not very strict like we
Right.
have here in India.
Right.
So that is a good thing. Thank you so much, Dr. Devashis, for answering all my questions so patiently and in a detailed form. I know it's gonna help a lot of our students now. So, and it was lovely talking to you. You gave us so many insights, about the Canadian culture, Canadian student culture, and this how students can live and study in Canada. So thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for coming on our show.
Thank you so much, Shweta. It was a pleasure.
And also we have with us Ashish Sharma, the university representative from the University of New Brunswick, South Asia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming. I'm glad to be here and to speak to you.
So our viewers want to know about the upcoming intake at the University of New Brunswick.
Sure. So we have 2 intakes in a year, and the current one being the September or the fall intake in 2025, and then we have a winter intake in January as well. So currently what we're looking at is applications for the fall intake in 2025.
Right.
And yes, for the applications, for the process, for the visa filing, and for a lot of other steps which international students would like to benefit out of, they can get in touch with the counselors at AECC. They are a partner, and we've been working together since a while. I'm very confident of the processes that they follow, their knowledge about the processes of visa for application and for all various aspects of the international student journey. So you can get in touch with them, and they'd be happy to guide you through it. They can also help you with great scholarship options at University of New Brunswick. We are very good at offering, we extremely big in terms of offering the quantum of scholarship. So just to state, last year we awarded some 11 million Canadian dollars to undergraduate scholarships. So, and the scholarship is renewable in nature. So you can, I urge international students to benefit out of that as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashish. And if you guys have any question about the intake or the application process, feel free to DM us or reach out to your nearest AECC branch. Our counselors are always there to help you. And if you like this episode, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.